Dead men tell no tales, but their ships speak volumes. Welcome to the Cursed Compass, where we explore the darkest maritime mysteries. In 1621, the English East Indiaman Tryall departed Plymouth. At the time, deep ocean travel was a venture of absolute isolation, where wooden hulls were tested by the full force of the sea for months on end. To cut costs, the East India Company ordered Captain John Brooke to use the newly discovered Brower route. As this map shows, it abandoned the traditional coastal path for a direct, high-speed sprint across the southern Indian Ocean. This shortcut depended on the roaring 40s, violent, unimpeded winds that swirl around the bottom of the world. By dropping below 35 degrees south, a ship could catch these gales and potentially save half a year of travel time. However, 17th-century mariners had no reliable way to calculate longitude, their exact position from east to west. They could track their latitude, but on the open ocean, they were essentially guessing their progress across the map. Combining a high-speed, wind-blasted shortcut with a total inability to track position turned the voyage into a mathematical gamble. For an inexperienced captain, the Brower route offered a faster arrival or a blind collision with anything in the ship's path. Captain Brooke made a massive miscalculation. Pushed by the winds, he drifted roughly 1,000 kilometers too far east, sailing his crew directly into the blank spaces of the contemporary charts. On May 1, 1622, the crew sighted unknown land. Realizing they were dangerously off course, they spent weeks fighting northerly winds, struggling to correct their path and push toward Batavia. On the night of May 25th, the ship was moving through a pitch-black ocean. Visibility was zero, and the crew had no way of knowing how close they were to the reef. Without warning, the Tryall slammed into a submerged reef. The hull struck the rocks with enough force to stick fast, leaving the ship immobilized as the sea began to hammer the timber. The situation deteriorated in minutes. The Tryall was no longer a functioning vessel. It was a shattered wreck at the mercy of powerful ocean swells. With the hull splintering beneath them, 143 men were trapped on a wreck surrounded by a roaring, pitch-black ocean. In the middle of the panic, Captain Brooke quietly launched the ship's small skiff. He boarded with his son and a select few, then rowed away into the night, leaving the rest of the crew to the mercy of the reef. A second group of 35 men eventually managed to launch the longboat. They made for the nearby islands to regroup, leaving behind anyone who couldn't reach the boat before it cleared the wreck. This left 93 sailors stranded on the remains of the ship. As the ocean swells tore the timbers apart, the men were left in total darkness as the reef swallowed the ship. The death of nearly 100 sailors was a consequence of the crash, but their isolation was a calculation. Captain Brooke chose to secure his own survival by deserting his men in the dark. Brooke reached Batavia weeks later. Assuming no one else had survived to contradict him, he drafted a report that blamed the Admiralty and absolved himself of all responsibility. To hide how far off course he had been, Brooke falsified the coordinates of the crash. He moved the site of the wreck far to the west, ensuring that future maps would record the reef in the wrong place. His version of events was the only record until the survivors in the longboat reached Batavia. Among them was Thomas Bright, who immediately wrote his own account to the ship's owners in London. Bright's letter was scathing. He accused Brooke of poor navigation, failing to post a lookout, and the cowardly abandonment of the 93 men left on the reef. Despite Bright's report, the falsified coordinates remained on official charts. Brooke's lie created a phantom reef that would confuse navigators for the next 300 years. The true location of the Tryall remained a mystery until 1934. Historian Ida Lee used the conflicting letters to deduce that the wreck wasn't where Brooke claimed, but was actually off the Montebello Islands. In 1969, a team of scuba divers followed her research. Descending into the waters near the Tryall rocks, they finally located the physical remains of the ship. They found giant anchors, heavy granite ballast, and cannons scattered across the seabed. The site also bore the marks of modern rogue divers, including electrical cables from explosive devices used during illegal salvage attempts. The discovery solidified the Tryall's place in history. It is officially Australia's earliest recorded shipwreck and represents the first documented English encounter with the continent. Australia's first chapter of European contact was not a triumph of exploration. but a haunting tragedy born of guesswork, hidden by cowardice, and serving as a watery grave for 93 men.